The stars over Earth had always been silent. For centuries, people had looked up at the night sky with wonder, dreaming about other worlds and the possibility of life beyond. Some imagined peaceful civilizations, wise and kind, who would share knowledge. Others feared the opposite, that if the stars ever spoke back, they might speak with war. On a warm evening, the silence broke. It began as a shadow. Children playing in the fields pointed upward first, their laughter fading as they noticed something covering the sun. Dogs howled, birds fled from the trees, and traffic stopped on highways as people got out of their cars to stare. Something enormous hung in the sky. It was not a cloud nor a storm. It was a fleet. One ship could have been mistaken for a floating mountain, a fortress of black steel, but there were not one or two. There were thousands. They formed a wall that swallowed the horizon, blotting out the stars and sunlight alike. People panicked. Some fell to their knees in prayer. Others grabbed their phones and cameras, recording the impossible. News channels cut into every program with live images, their anchors speaking with voices that shook. Within minutes, the entire world saw it. The fleet of General Zortal. He had crossed galaxies before, conquering weaker civilizations and demanding their obedience. Planets with vast resources had bowed to him, fearing the destruction of their homes. He had grown arrogant, certain that every world would eventually break before his will. Now it was Earth's turn. The first broadcast came in a voice that was not human. It filled every television, every radio, every device capable of sound. It was deep, metallic, and commanding, like thunder wrapped in iron. Humans, it began. I am General Zortal of the Car Dominion. You are ordered to surrender this planet and pay tribute to my empire. Refuse and you will be erased. The world froze. Factories stopped. Schools dismissed children. Soldiers rushed to bases. Leaders gathered in emergency rooms underground. No one had prepared for this moment, yet it was happening before their eyes. The message repeated, and with each repetition, the fear grew heavier. But not everyone trembled. Far away from the flashing screens and the secure government chambers, in a quiet forest village, an old woman sat by the fire. She was known only by a name spoken in whispers, Baba Yaga. Her hands were wrinkled, her hair silver, her eyes sharp as the moonlight. For decades she had lived apart from the world, a figure of mystery. Some called her a witch, others a grandmother of legends. When the sky darkened with alien ships, the villagers ran to her home. Baba Yaga, they cried, the end has come. What will we do? How can we survive? The old woman rose slowly, leaning on her wooden staff. She stepped outside, staring at the sky that no longer showed stars. The corners of her lips lifted in a small, knowing smile. Children, she said, though many who listened were grown men and women, do you not see? They think we are weak. They think we will kneel. But they have not yet met the heart of humanity. Her words spread quickly. The frightened found comfort in her voice. Her calmness was a spark in the darkness. Meanwhile, in the capital cities of the world, leaders argued. Some wanted to fight, others to negotiate. The alien fleet was too large, too advanced. Their ships could destroy continents with a single strike. Humanity's weapons, compared to theirs, looked like toys. Still, there was no agreement. Should Earth surrender or resist? Time was running out. General Zortal sent a second message. This time his face appeared. Reptilian features with eyes like molten stone, armored scales gleaming under the light of alien suns. His voice rumbled across every screen. Your world has beauty. Your oceans, your forests, your cities. They will serve the Dominion well. You have 3 days to send tribute. Ships, oars, labor, and obedience. Refuse and you will burn. This time there was no doubt in his tone. He expected Earth to obey. Every other world had done so. He believed humans would kneel like all the rest. But back in her forest home, Baba Yaga laughed softly. It was not the laugh of a woman amused, but of someone who had seen too much of history to fear a new tyrant. She gathered the villagers close and told them stories. She spoke of winters when her ancestors had nothing but bread crusts, yet still they endured. She spoke of wars that left cities in ashes, yet people rebuilt them stone by stone. She spoke of plagues that swept across lands, but still humanity survived. Her voice was steady. Her eyes burned. They have made a mistake, she said. They think we are like the others, that we will kneel. But humans do not kneel. Not to kings, not to conquerors, not to death itself. The villagers listened, their fear slowly changing into something else, something fiercer. Across the world, fear continued to grow. Supermarkets emptied as people hoarded food, planes crowded with passengers fleeing cities. Soldiers were deployed to keep order. But even in the midst of chaos, strange things began to happen. In one city, engineers gathered to discuss how to turn cargo ships into weapons. In another, farmers spoke of offering their land for hidden bases. Miners sent messages saying they would work day and night to forge steel for war. It was as if Baba Yaga's spirit had traveled the winds, carrying her defiance into the hearts of strangers. Humanity, scattered and divided for centuries, was beginning to move as one. General Sortal watched from above. His eyes narrowed as he studied Earth. Strange, he muttered. They should be broken with fear. Yet they are restless, unpredictable. An aide bowed low, his alien armor clicking. Shall we fire upon them, my general? A show of power will silence this planet quickly. But Zortal shook his head. He was too proud. He wanted tribute, not ashes. Destroying Earth would rob him of its resources, and he wished to see humans kneel before him. To him, that humiliation would be sweeter than destruction. Wait, he ordered. They will surrender. They always do. On the second night, the skies glowed red as alien drones patrolled above cities. People hid indoors, whispering prayers. Yet in the same night, underground bunkers filled with workers. They built weapons not seen before, using scraps, old engines, and the cleverness born from desperation. At the center of it all, unseen but deeply felt, was Baba Yaga. Leaders sent for her. Generals asked her to speak to their troops. She refused to travel, but she gave them her words. Tell them, do not kneel. Tell them, they come as masters, but they will leave as ghosts. Tell them, humanity has teeth. On the third day, as the deadline approached, the tension became unbearable. Families clung to one another. Soldiers stood ready, though they knew they were outmatched. Scientists raced to finish codes that might disrupt alien technology. And Baba Yaga, standing beneath the fleet's shadow, raised her staff high. The villagers around her lit torches, their flames small against the dark sky but bright with determination. She spoke once more. Her voice carried on wind, on wires, on radio waves hacked by bold young programmers. The whole world heard her words. You came to demand tribute. You will find only resistance. You came to frighten us. You will learn fear. You came for obedience. You will meet death. For we are human, and humans do not kneel. The world erupted with a roar. People in distant lands who had never spoken before cheered as one. Soldiers who had doubted their chances now clenched their fists with fire in their hearts. Children looked at the sky not with tears but with defiance. And General Sortal, watching from his throne aboard the flagship, finally frowned. For the first time in his long reign, he felt something he had never felt before: doubt. The sky above Earth remained covered by General Sortal's fleet. For 3 days, the shadow of his warships had not lifted. Cities lived in a strange twilight, caught between sunlight and the metallic eclipse. People went about their days with unease, looking upward every few minutes as if the fleet might open fire at any second. The air itself felt heavy. Radios whispered updates every hour. Screens in shops replayed the same message: submit tribute. 3 days. Obey or be erased. But the third day had passed and Earth had not answered. General Zortal sat in the command chamber of his flagship, a throne of steel and black crystal. Around him stood officers of the Car Dominion, armored and disciplined. On the walls, floating screens showed Earth's surface, oceans sparkling, forests swaying in winds, cities glowing with lights. The general's eyes, sharp and reptilian, studied the planet. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. Why do they hesitate? By now, every other species would have sent their tribute. Yet these humans remain silent. One officer stepped forward, bowing low. Perhaps they are slow to decide, my general. Their leaders may be arguing among themselves. Zortal leaned back. His armored fingers tapped the throne. Or perhaps they are stubborn. I have crushed worlds stronger than this one. I have made empires kneel. These creatures cannot hope to resist me. He raised his hand and the chamber fell silent. His command was absolute. Prepare the second broadcast, he ordered. This time they will see my face. On Earth, people were still waiting. Families huddled around radios. Soldiers stood watch in bunkers. Children clutched their parents' hands. Then, without warning, every screen flickered. Every radio, every phone, every billboard in every city came alive at once. General Zortal's image filled the world. He was massive, his reptilian body encased in armor carved with strange symbols. His eyes glowed orange like molten stone. When he spoke, his voice carried across the globe deep and cold. Humans, your time is finished. You have 3 days to send tribute. Ships, oars, labor, and obedience. If you refuse, your world will burn. The word struck every ear with the weight of doom. People gasped, some sobbed. In living rooms and town squares, silence followed his message. But in a small forest village, Baba Yaga listened with narrowed eyes. The villagers around her were trembling. Some begged her, "Baba Yaga, we cannot fight them. Look at their ships. They are too many. They are too strong." The old woman lifted her staff and tapped it against the ground. The sound was small, but it silenced the crowd. She looked at the faces around her, faces of farmers, workers, and children, and her voice came out steady, sharp as the wind in winter. "Do you not see?
He believes we are already defeated.
He believes his words alone will make us kneel. He does not understand humanity." She pointed to the sky where the fleet covered the sun. "Others may bow, others may break, but we are human, and humans do not kneel." Her words carried like fire in dry grass. Those who had been shaking now stood straighter. Those who had been weeping wiped their eyes. That night, whispers of Baba Yaga's defiance spread far beyond her village. Soldiers repeated her words to one another. Teachers wrote them on chalkboards for frightened students. Even leaders in hidden chambers heard her message carried by messengers and broadcasts. Humans do not kneel. In the great capitals of Earth, leaders met in underground rooms. Screens showed maps of alien ships. Military commanders gave reports. Scientists explained the differences in technology. The truth was clear. Humanity was far behind. The Car Dominion's weapons were centuries ahead. Their ships could cross galaxies in days. Their shields could resist missiles and bombs. One leader slammed his fist on the table. "We cannot win. If we fight, Earth will be destroyed. We must negotiate." Another shook her head. "And if we kneel, what then? Do we become their slaves? Do we give them our children, our seas, our mountains? If we kneel, Earth is no longer ours." The room filled with arguments, voices rising and clashing. No decision came. But far away from those debates, ordinary people had already decided. In the deserts, engineers gathered old planes and began reforging them into strange machines. In frozen tundras, miners dug deep, sending iron and steel to hidden factories. In coastal towns, fishermen gave their boats to soldiers who stripped them for engines and parts. All across the planet, something was happening. Humanity was moving. Baba Yaga's words had touched them. It did not matter that she was an old woman in a forest. Her spirit had become larger than life. She was a symbol now, of defiance, of fire, of survival. On the second night, children asked their parents why the sky was still dark. The parents held them close, unable to answer. But when they looked upward, they no longer only felt fear. They felt something else, anger. "Why should we kneel?" a mother whispered. "Why should we give away our world?" A father nodded, holding his son tighter. "We have fought for everything before. We will fight again." In his flagship, General Zortal grew impatient. "They stall," he growled. "But their silence means nothing. When the deadline passes, we will descend upon their cities. We will take their tribute by force. Their resistance will be crushed like insects beneath a boot." Yet even as he spoke, he felt a small spark of irritation. For the first time, he had sensed something unusual from this planet. The humans were not behaving like others. They were restless. Their silence was not surrender, it was something else. His eyes narrowed. "They think themselves brave," he muttered. "But courage without power is nothing." Back on Earth, Baba Yaga sat before her fire as the night stretched long. The villagers asked her, "What will happen when the deadline ends? What will they do?" She looked into the flames, her face glowing orange and gold. "They will come," she said simply, "and when they come, we will show them who we are." She told them stories, her voice weaving history into the dark. She told of how humans had endured when the earth froze, when floods came, when empires rose and fell. She reminded them that no conqueror in history had ever held humanity forever. Kings fell, tyrants fell. Time itself bent before the will of people who refused to kneel. The villagers listened, their fears slowly turning into determination. The fire crackled. The stars hid behind alien ships, and yet in that small circle of light, the spirit of Earth grew stronger. As the third day dawned, the fleet above Earth shifted. Warships moved into tighter formation. Drones filled the atmosphere. The shadow grew darker. It was the final warning before the storm, but Earth did not bow. Instead, in secret hangars, engines roared to life. In underground labs, hackers finished codes that might infect alien systems. In villages, towns, and cities, people held their heads high. And in the forest, Baba Yaga stood with her staff gazing at the sky. Her wrinkled face was calm, but her eyes blazed. She whispered, though the whole world seemed to hear her words. "You came to demand tribute. You will leave with nothing. For you have awakened the storm inside humanity, and storms cannot kneel." General Zortal, watching from above, felt his armored chest tighten. It was not fear, not yet, but something close to it. Something he had never known in all his conquests. For the first time, he wondered if he had made a mistake. The third day passed, and still no tribute was given. The people of Earth waited. They waited for fire to fall from the sky, for the alien fleet to burn their cities, for the end to begin. But the fire did not come. Instead, the skies remained heavy, filled with the cold shadow of the Car Dominion ships. General Sortal had expected surrender. Instead, he found silence. It was not the silence of fear. It was the silence of something else, something dangerous. On Earth, the silence was filled with movement. Factories once used for cars and machines now hammered out weapons. Shipyards that had been half forgotten near the coasts suddenly came alive. Sparks flying as engineers worked without sleep. Old planes were pulled from museums and hangars, repaired and refitted with whatever weapons could be found. In villages, farmers gave their tools to soldiers. In towns, students carried boxes of supplies to underground shelters. In cities, hackers gathered in basements, eyes glowing with the light of computer screens as they built programs to strike at alien systems. The world was changing. Humanity, long divided by nations and borders, had begun to move as one. And in the forest, Baba Yaga's fire burned brighter each night. People traveled from distant towns just to hear her speak. They brought her food, gifts, and questions. They asked her if they could win. They asked her if Earth had any hope. The old woman sat by the flames, her staff beside her, her silver hair glowing in the firelight. Her voice was calm, but every word struck like iron on steel. Hope is not given. Hope is made. Do not wait for hope to come to you. Make it with your hands, with your courage, with your fire. She looked at the faces of the young and the old, the strong and the weary. Do you not see? They have already made a mistake. They thought their shadows would frighten us into kneeling, but instead they have awakened us. They have shown us the truth, that we are one people, and when we stand together we are stronger than they can imagine. Her words traveled far beyond the forest. Soldiers carried them into camps. Engineers repeated them in their workshops. Mothers whispered them to their children, and soon a phrase began to echo across Earth. We are one. We do not kneel. High above in his flagship, General Zortal studied the planet. His eyes narrowed as he watched strange movements on the surface. Humans were gathering. They were building. They were preparing. He turned to his officers. They refuse tribute. They defy me. But look, they make weapons from scraps. They gather as if they believe they can fight us. His officers laughed. One said, "Let them gather. Let them waste their strength. When we strike, they will see how powerless they truly are." But Zortal was not laughing. Something about these humans troubled him. He had seen many species before. Creatures with advanced ships and armies, creatures with great cities and machines. They all had one thing in common. When they faced his fleet, they surrendered quickly, but the humans were different. They are dangerous, Zortal muttered, not because of their weapons, but because of their spirit. On Earth, preparations reached every corner. In a frozen northern port, shipbuilders worked day and night, converting fishing boats into war vessels. They painted the words "for Earth" on their sides, even if those ships would never leave the ocean. In deserts, scientists tested rockets built from spare parts, watching them streak into the sky like fireflies against the shadow of the fleet. In mountains, villagers carved tunnels into the rock, creating shelters for the young and old, so that if the war came, humanity would not vanish all at once. Even children worked. They sewed flags, carried water, and wrote letters for soldiers heading into unknown battles. They were small acts, but each one was part of the storm that was gathering. Baba Yaga's home had become a meeting place. Generals came in secret seeking her counsel. Leaders sent messengers asking her to guide them. Soldiers knelt before her fire wanting her blessing before they marched. She welcomed none as kings or rulers. She called them all the same, children of earth. To each she gave the same words: do not kneel. Do not break. You are the storm they fear. One evening, as the villagers gathered, a young soldier asked her, "But Baba Yaga, they have ships that blot out the sky. They have weapons that can melt steel and shatter mountains. What can we do against that? What can we do with our small machines and our fragile bodies?" The old woman smiled, her eyes shining like coals in the firelight. "Do you know what makes humans strong?" she asked. The soldier shook his head. "It is not our weapons. It is not our machines. It is our will. We fall, but we rise again. We are broken, but we heal. We are outnumbered, but we fight together. That is what they do not understand. That is what will undo them." Her words sank deep into every heart. As the days stretched into nights, humanity's resolve only grew. Fear was still there, but it was no longer alone. It was joined by defiance, by unity, by courage. The world, once divided by borders and languages, now spoke with one voice. From the smallest village to the greatest city, the cry was the same. We are one. We do not kneel. On the flagship, General Zortal gave new orders. Send drones into their skies. Watch them closely. I want to know what they build, what they plan. The drones descended, black machines gliding through the clouds, silent and watchful. They filmed the factories, the ships, the people gathering. They sent images back to the Dominion fleet. The officers laughed again. Look at them. They are ants building sticks and stones. They cannot stand against us, but Zortal said nothing. He only stared at the screens. For the first time, he saw not ants, but something else. He saw fire in the eyes of the humans. He saw unity where there had once been division. And in the back of his mind, the doubt grew larger. That night in the forest, Baba Yaga stood beneath the shadow of the fleet. The villagers around her held torches, their flames small but steady. The old woman lifted her staff and spoke to the dark sky. "General Zortal," she said, though her voice was carried only by wind and courage, "you believe you will break us, but you have already failed. For we are awake now, we are united, and we are coming for you." Her words, though quiet, felt as if they echoed across the world. Soldiers in their camps felt them. Workers in their factories felt them. Families in their homes felt them. The storm was ready. And high above, in his throne of steel and black crystal, General Zortal clenched his claws tighter than before. He had wanted tribute. He had wanted obedience. But what he had drawn forth was something he had never expected. War. The shadow of the alien fleet had hung above Earth for too long. People no longer looked at the sky with fear alone. Now when they raised their eyes, they also felt anger, determination, and unity. They knew the time had come. General Zortal waited for surrender. Instead, Earth gave him silence. Silence and preparation. On the fourth day after his final demand, the first sparks of defiance appeared. They did not come from mighty nations or powerful leaders. They came from ordinary people who had decided they would not wait for death. In the deserts, an old launch site came alive. Rockets built from scraps of old engines and guided by hand-coded software were prepared for launch. Engineers and mechanics who had once worked on small projects now stood as soldiers of Earth. In the mountains, hidden bases lit up with activity. Small fighter jets, repaired and repainted, were armed with weapons no one had thought to use before. Drones built from spare metal, toy parts, and computer chips buzzed like angry hornets waiting for orders. In the oceans, submarines that had been rusting for years began to move again. Crews filled them with courage more than firepower. But still they sailed out into the dark water, ready for the unknown. The people of Earth were no longer divided. They were no longer separate. They were one, and all of them carried the same words in their hearts. We do not kneel. Baba Yaga stood at the edge of her forest village as the night sky glowed with strange lights. She could see the shadows of alien drones moving above the clouds, watching, recording. She could also hear the distant hum of human engines starting. She smiled. The villagers gathered around her, torches in hand. Some were afraid, some were brave, but all of them were ready. Children. Baba Yaga said, her voice calm yet firm. Tonight, the sky will no longer belong to them. Tonight we show the stars that Earth is not silent. Her words carried into the wind. It was as if the air itself carried them across fields, over mountains, and through cities. People everywhere felt the same thing at the same moment. The storm was ready to break. High above, General Zortal sat in his command throne. His officers reported calmly. "My general, their movements grow louder. Our drones report strange activity across their continents. Factories, bases, ships, humans are preparing," another officer laughed. "Preparing for what? Their weapons are nothing compared to ours. Their machines are fragile toys. They cannot stand against us." Zortal did not laugh. He leaned forward, his burning eyes fixed on the screens. "They are restless," he said. "Too restless. They do not surrender. They do not fear me as they should." He tapped the arm of his throne. His voice grew cold. "If they want to strike, let them. We will crush their fire in its first breath." The fire came sooner than anyone expected. In the desert, the rockets roared to life. Flames lit the night as they rose into the dark sky, leaving trails of smoke and sparks. They were clumsy, they were slow, but they were aimed true, toward the fleet above. In the ocean, submarines launched torpedoes, their trails of bubbles cutting through black water. In the skies, human jets soared upward, their engines screaming, carrying pilots who knew they might not return. And from the forests and cities, swarms of drones rose like flocks of birds buzzing with energy, moving in ways the alien fleet had not expected. Humanity had struck first. The alien fleet responded at once. From above, the warships glowed with blue light. Beams of energy lanced downward, striking rockets mid-flight, shattering jets, boiling the sea where torpedoes swam. Explosions lit the sky like stars being born and dying in the same breath. But for every rocket destroyed, another still flew. For every jet shot down, another rose. For every drone blasted apart, 3 more swarmed in. The aliens had numbers. They had power. But the humans had something else, persistence. They did not stop. They did not retreat. They struck again and again, even when the sky burned red with fire. Baba Yaga watched from the ground as explosions lit the horizon. The villagers gasped, some covering their mouths, some whispering prayers. But the old woman did not flinch. She planted her staff firmly into the soil and spoke. "Do you see? They think we are weak. They think we will break. But look at the sky. Look at how we rise again and again. This is who we are. This is humanity." Her words carried strength. Even those who feared now stood taller. They looked at the burning sky not as the end, but as the beginning of their resistance. In the command chamber of the flagship, General Zortal's officers shouted reports. "My general, their rockets struck the shields of 2 ships. Jets have damaged drone patrols in the southern sky. A swarm of small machines, primitive, but fast, has infiltrated our outer defenses." The general's claws tightened on his throne. His eyes blazed with fury. "Impossible," he growled. "Their weapons should mean nothing. Yet they continue to strike. They should have been crushed by now." One officer trembled, lowering his voice. "It is their persistence, my general. They do not stop." Zortal stood, his massive figure towering above them. His voice thundered. "Then we will break their spirit. Prepare the fleet. If they want war, then war they shall have." On Earth, the first battles raged through the night. Cities glowed with fires, but also with courage. People ran through the streets not to flee, but to carry supplies. Soldiers shouted not in despair, but in unity. Everywhere the words were spoken. "We are one. We do not kneel." The attacks had cost dearly. Many ships had fallen, many machines destroyed. But the humans did not see defeat. They saw proof that the great fleet of the Dominion could be touched, could be hurt, could be resisted, and that knowledge was worth more than gold, more than tribute. It was hope. At dawn, the skies cleared for a brief moment. Smoke drifted across the horizon. The fleet still loomed above, but the people of Earth did not look at it with the same fear as before. They had fought. And though the battle was small compared to what was to come, it had shown them the truth. The aliens could bleed. Baba Yaga stood at the edge of the forest, her eyes watching the smoke rise into the brightening sky. Around her, the villagers waited in silence. At last she spoke. This was only the beginning. "The storm has broken. The fire has been lit. From this day forward, the stars will know the truth of Earth." She lifted her staff high, her voice carrying far and wide. "We are human. We are one. And we do not kneel." The villagers cheered. Across cities, camps, and shelters, people cheered too, their voices rising into the sky. And far above, in his throne of steel, General Zortal heard those voices through his machines echoing across his screens. For the first time in his long life of conquest, he felt something unfamiliar twisting inside him. It was not victory. It was not certainty. It was fear. The battle in the sky had shaken the world. The night had been filled with fire, with rockets rising, jets streaking upward, and drones buzzing like angry insects. Earth's resistance had surprised the galaxy itself. When the dawn came, the fleet of General Zortal still hung above the planet. The alien warships were vast and strong, but they no longer seemed untouchable. Their shields had flickered. Their drones had fallen. Their perfect silence had been broken, and for humanity that was enough. On the ground, people celebrated even in the ruins. Soldiers who had fought through the night stood together, covered in dust and smoke but smiling with pride. Families who had hidden in shelters emerged to the surface, holding one another tightly. Engineers, miners, workers, and students all felt the same fire burning inside them. They had faced the greatest empire in the galaxy and survived the first strike. In the forest, Baba Yaga sat by her fire as villagers gathered around her. Her staff rested across her knees and her sharp eyes glowed with calm certainty. "Do you see, children?" she said softly, though all leaned closer to hear her. They thought they were gods. But gods do not bleed. Gods do not tremble, and yet their fleet has felt our fire. Their general has felt our breath. The villagers nodded, some smiling, some still fearful. But all of them believed now. Baba Yaga stood slowly, leaning on her staff. She looked at the sky, where the great ship still hovered. "This war is not finished," she said. "It has only begun. But know this, it will not end with us kneeling. It will end with him falling." High above, in the flagship, General Zortal raged. His throne chamber shook with his voice. "They dare to strike me. They dare to touch my fleet." His officers bowed low, careful not to meet his eyes. "My general, they are clever. Their weapons are weak, but they use them with strange skill. They fight with desperation." "Desperation is nothing," Zortal roared. "We will burn their cities. We will break their spirit. We will show them what it means to defy the Dominion." But even as he shouted, his claws clenched tighter on the throne. Deep inside, he felt something he had never known before. Doubt. The second great battle began at noon. This time the fleet struck first. Beams of energy shot downward, slicing through mountains, shaking the oceans, and lighting the skies with fire. Alien drones swarmed across the atmosphere, hunting the small human ships. But Earth was ready. From underground bases, missiles launched in waves, streaking upward to meet the invaders. From the oceans, submarines released hidden weapons that tore through drone swarms. From the cities, towers disguised as factories fired beams of stolen alien energy, hacked and rewired by human hands. Everywhere people fought back. In one mountain valley, a group of pilots flew ancient jets, their wings patched with steel plates. They dodged beams of fire weaving between drones and crashed into warships with courage greater than their weapons. In the desert, engineers activated strange machines built from scrap. They hacked into alien signals, sending false commands that turned drones against one another. In the forests, villagers lit signal fires guiding small human forces through hidden paths, striking where the aliens least expected. It was not one army that fought that day. It was the whole of humanity. Baba Yaga's fire burned brighter than ever. Though the battle raged far from her village, her voice carried into the hearts of all who fought. She spoke to soldiers through broken radios. She spoke to children through whispers carried by wind. She spoke to generals through dreams when they closed their eyes for even a moment. Do not kneel. Bite until your teeth break. Strike until your hands shatter. Show them what it means to be human. Her words became more than words. They became the heartbeat of Earth. On the flagship, alarms blared. Officers shouted reports. "My general, 2 of our ships have fallen. Drones are turning against us. Their codes are infected. Our shields are weakening under repeated strikes." Zortal's molten eyes blazed. "Impossible. They cannot win. They are only one world, one species." Yet, as the screens lit up with images of Earth's endless resistance, he felt the truth pressing down on him. Humanity was not one world. Humanity was millions of voices, millions of hands, Millions of wills that refused to break, and together, they were stronger than he had ever imagined. The turning point came when a swarm of human drones, guided by hacked signals, pierced through the defenses of the flagship itself. They were small, weak machines, but they struck with precision, diving into cracks of armor, planting charges, and exploding inside the belly of the great ship. The flagship shook. Warning sirens screamed. Officers fell to the floor as the mighty vessel trembled under the impact. General Zortal rose from his throne, his voice thundering. "Fight harder. Crush them." But his command was drowned by another sound, the sound of his fleet falling one by one under the fire of humanity. On the ground, Baba Yaga stood, staff raised high, eyes fixed on the sky. She could feel the great ship trembling even from the earth below. She closed her eyes and whispered, as if speaking directly to the general himself. "You came for tribute. You came for obedience. But you will leave with nothing but defeat." Her voice seemed to ride the wind, to cross the sky, to enter the ears of the alien general himself. And for the first time in his life, General Zortal felt fear. The final strike came from Earth itself. In a hidden base, a group of young programmers had been working without rest. Their fingers moved across keyboards, their eyes glowing with the light of screens. Finally, they released the code they had written. It was a virus, simple, crude, and human. But it spread through the alien systems like wildfire, confusing commands, shutting down shields, silencing weapons. The flagship's lights flickered. Its engines groaned. Its mighty shields collapsed like broken glass. At that moment, Earth's rockets rose for the last time. They streaked upward faster and brighter than before and struck the heart of General Zortal's throne. The sky lit with fire. On Earth, people cheered. In cities and villages, in deserts and mountains, in ships and shelters, voices rose as one. The fleet was breaking. The great general was falling, and Baba Yaga, watching the burning sky, lowered her staff and whispered, "It is finished." High above, General Zortal staggered in his collapsing throne room. Screens shattered, sparks rained from broken machines, and the great vessel groaned like a wounded beast. He raised his eyes, blazing with fury and disbelief. How can they fight like this? How can they defeat me? But there was no answer. Only the sound of his empire breaking apart. And in his last moment, as the fire closed around him, he remembered the old woman's words carried by strange winds. "We are human. We are one, and we do not kneel." Then the fire took him. The fleet fell silent. One by one, the great warships turned away from Earth, broken, beaten, and leaderless. The survivors fled into the stars, carrying with them the story of their defeat. For the first time, the galaxy would hear a new tale, the tale of humanity. The tale of the world that refused to kneel. On Earth, there was no celebration of conquest. There was no pride in destruction. There was only relief, tears, and quiet joy. Families embraced. Soldiers laid down their weapons. Workers rested their weary hands, but above all there was unity. Humanity had faced the greatest storm and had stood together, and in the forest Baba Yaga sat once more by her fire. The villagers gathered around her, waiting for her to speak. She looked at them, her eyes kind but sharp, and said, "Remember this. We did not win with machines. We did not win with weapons. We won with our will. Never forget that we are strongest when we stand as one." The villagers nodded, their hearts heavy but proud. Baba Yaga looked into the flames, her voice low, almost a whisper. "The galaxy will never forget this day, and neither must we." The fire crackled. The night was quiet. Above them, for the first time in weeks, the sky was clear. The stars shone brightly not as symbols of fear, but as reminders of victory. And humanity, tired but unbroken, lifted its eyes to the endless heavens, for they were no longer the silent watchers of the stars. They were the storm,